I am Matt Roszak, co-founder and chairman of Block. We just launched a new protocol called Hemi, which connects the king and queen of crypto, Bitcoin and ETH, into one super network. So a little plug there. The moment that we have right now is pretty special. This is literally 10, 11 years in the making for this stage setup, which is pretty incredible to think. And I'm here with the founder and the CEO, soon-to-be chairwoman of the chamber, Perianne Boring, and Cody Carbone, who ran policy for the chamber, is president, and is about to be CEO momentarily here. But I really want to just impress upon everybody in this community. You look to the left of yourself, the right of yourself, you see some of the most incredible and important people in this space, builders, advocates, investors, and it's really an incredible community to be a part of. I've been fortunate to be in the advisory board since inception of the chamber. I had the privilege of testifying in front of Congress, which was pretty amazing. And then, like most of us, the chamber brings us in and engages with CFTC, SEC, Treasury, White House, members of Congress, and kind of really pushes the education and the understanding of this tech. And I think somebody said it best to me the other day, where this industry is hard because you have two concepts here that most people, walking on the street aren't familiar with, which is like computers and tech and money, right? And then you combine them, it's really not as intuitive. But I think as we think about these decentralized networks and more of these cooperative money systems, I think most people will start to see that. So with all that, I just want to say this is a milestone moment, and congratulations on the progress to date. But I think it's also cool to hear the origin story. So you started this about 11 years ago. What drove you to it? What was kind of the seed of the idea, and what got you here?
I was never a Bitcoin skeptic. People were like, the evolution of becoming a crypto champion is like, first you're a skeptic, and then you get interested, and then eventually you become a champion. I was always really excited about what Bitcoin was. I learned about Bitcoin around 2011 when I was working on Capitol Hill. I came to DC after the financial crisis of 2008 and 2009 to help work on financial reform. And a lot of the policy work that I was working on was, how do we rebuild our financial and our monetary system to address things like systemic risk? How do we think about addressing the unsustainable levels of debt that we have hanging over all of the taxpayers' backs? And I learned about Bitcoin around that time, and I thought, wow, this is a really interesting and promising idea. And over time, I just followed it on my own for a number of years, and I eventually came to the conclusion that this is a tech that could solve a lot of the biggest challenges facing our country. And I became a very big believer and decided to turn my career into helping advocate, protect, and advance Bitcoin and blockchain technology. So we started the Digital Chamber in 2014. 2013 was a really rough year for the crypto and the Bitcoin space. We just went through another one. Preston was saying, if you were here 2 years ago, it was not as much fun at all, because we had just gotten past this huge FTX scandal, and we weren't very popular even just 2 years ago. 2013 was even worse. We went through Mt. Gox and we went through Silk Road, and there were a lot of attempts to shut this technology down in this town. So to me, it was very obvious that the industry needed to have an advocate to protect this important technology, to give it a chance, to see if this can really be a promise to addressing pretty significant issues that there's not a lot of other answers to. So we started in 2014 with a very small group of companies. We've grown that to over 200 today. And I think the vision and what we have sought to accomplish, we've really accomplished the first phase of that, which is ensuring its success. Now it's just executing on the next phase.
Yeah, what's amazing is that through that, you built the first and largest trade association for this industry that we all love. So with that, let's give a round of applause. And those early days were kind of strange because you know, you didn't know what you were walking into sometimes, whether it's with regulators or Fortune 500 companies or whippersnapper Web3 companies. They're all kind of different audiences. One thing that has been pretty interesting is that the people that do show up from Fortune 500 companies, regulators, et cetera, are some of the smartest and most intuitive people that you meet. You know, yeah, there's a lot of friction. There's a lot of people saying, can't do that, got to wait for regulation, that's all fine. But a lot of the thought leaders, you know, gravitate to you guys because they see what you see in terms of the future. Did you ever get challenged last 10 years to be like, is this going to work? Or like, what kept you going?
It's been a lot of challenges. I feel like we had everything working against us. You know, from the very beginning, the whole DC machine was trying to shut down Bitcoin, which of course you can't really do. But that was the topic. That was the topic. There was multiple hearings in 2013 of should we ban this technology altogether. I mean, you're going up against some of the most powerful forces in the world, and we started with nothing. We didn't have any policymakers that really understood why this tech was so important, why it should be protected, why we should be encouraging its development here in the United States. We helped, you know, build a relationship with the very first member of Congress that came out as a pro blockchain and pro-crypto member of Congress, and that was Congressman Mick Mulvaney, small little congressman from South Carolina who then went on to have an amazing career, political career here in Washington. But I just remember that day where like we finally got someone who would take a meeting and listen and then was as excited as we were about the potential. And then fast forward to today, where in January we sworn in over 290 members of Congress that are pro-crypto. I mean, it's really hard to put into words how big of a deal that is, to be on the ground to get our first champion on Capitol Hill, to now have a majority in Congress. We are so well positioned for success. It's really incredible.
That's amazing. And I think the early days of the chamber were pretty amazing because you went around the world. So you did like trade missions to the UAE, to Japan, working groups galore. And sometimes working groups are like, you know, depending on what's in vogue that week or that month or that year. So you always have to kind of rotate that, whether it's mining or tokens or whatever. And you guys have been very, I think, responsive to those elements. And so now that we're in this kind of penultimate step with this new administration and everything else, we're looking towards the future. And Cody, you've been running policy, running the chamber, and being an amazing partner to Perianne. What's next, and what's ahead of us?
Well, hearing Perianne's story of the early days, I realize I'm very fortunate because I'm kind of set up. This is great. You know, what next is the execution element. We've done a great job where we now have a favorable regulatory environment for the first time. We have those 290 members of Congress, and that's growing every day as we continue our education journey. We're now taking the education, and we need to execute, and that's the advocacy element. Yes, the executive orders are fantastic. The president's working group is fantastic. A pro-crypto president is amazing. We need to get legislation passed. Political winds change very, very quickly. And so we need to make sure that we get the legislation that we want signed into law, stablecoins, market structure, protecting self-custody. There's a lot of things that we still need to get done to ensure that the US has the clarity, the regulatory clarity that we all deserve, that we know it's going to stay, whether it's a Democratic administration or a Republican administration in the future. And maybe they're not as pro-crypto, but we know that we are going to set the legal framework where now this industry can say, okay, I've got the clarity, I know who my regulator is. I don't need to be fearful of an enforcement action now. So now it's that execution. It's, yes, the education has been great. We've done an incredible job through Perianne's leadership over 11 years. We've built the roster of champions. Now let's hit the final step and let's get some things signed into law.
Yeah, it feels very much like the chamber's been exercising for this moment for quite some time and is like ready for this next phase. And that's pretty impressive on any measure. And then as we think about this next chapter, how can the community, and this is a very crypto-centric thing because there's this calling, there's this coordination and this community, so it's very crypto in a way of how the chamber operates. And I also love the fact that the best idea always wins. You know, if like there's a friction here, an issue here, you guys are very responsive to that. And so with that, what can the community, what can the chamber do to help you as you kind of get into this next phase?
Show up. Do exactly what you're doing today. We are only as effective as the folks who are leading and building in the industry. And so come join us, work with us. It's great that I can go in, and the Chamber has done an incredible job over these 11 years in building those relationships with policymakers, where now the policymakers trust us. They see us as a trusted resource. Where I view the Chamber going is, and what we've been building, is that we're just the bridge to making sure that the member companies who are building are the trusted resource. We want to facilitate those introductions. It's great that I can go into a member of Congress's office and talk about, from the brain of Cody, why they should be pro-digital assets, why they should be pro-Bitcoin, why they should be pro-blockchain. But they need to hear it from the builders themselves. They need to hear it from all of you in the audience. So show up, come to DC. DC, it's very popular in DC to come here right now. It's beautiful. We're able to get into every door on Capitol Hill at the administration. So show up. Come join us, work alongside of us, because again, there's only so much we can do as industry advocates. They need to hear from the folks who are really building.
Awesome. And maybe back to some of the origin story and kind of getting stuff done with the Chamber. What advice would you give, Perianne, to young entrepreneurs in the space? And I think one thing that's important to note is like most entrepreneurs, most CEOs, young CEOs, don't have the regulatory, kind of political vibe inherently coming out of the box, or like when they graduate or when they think about building something, it's not intuitive to them. And so I think this is a great API for a lot of those entrepreneurs in this space that's moving fast. But what advice would you give to people building in the space?
Well, a big part of what we're trying to accomplish right now at the Digital Chamber is what Cody said, establishing that legal framework. We've been operating in an era in regulatory uncertainty and regulation by enforcement for a number of years, which has really driven a lot of activity outside of the United States. But make no mistake, that era is over. It's done. We overcame that. And that was the big message of the Digital Asset Summit at the White House just 2 weeks ago. All the regulators were there, and essentially they were telling the industry, you are welcome here. We want you to innovate. We're not going to come after you just because you're innovating. And that's the environment we fought for so long. So this is a great time to start a company. This is a great time to invest, develop. We want to attract the best talent. We want to attract investment here in the U.S. blockchain economy, and we want to partner with our president to create the U.S. the crypto capital of the world. So I think one thing that's really important is staying to be mission driven, and to me that's something that's so important about just the integrity of what blockchains are. To me, a blockchain creates economic empowerment at a degree that's never been possible before, where everyone is equal on chain. There is no discrimination that happens on chain. It doesn't matter where you're from, how old you are, your gender, how you identify politically. Everyone who has the technical capabilities can participate equally. And this is going to change the way we transact and interact in the digital economy globally. So having companies that can create different products and services that make it easier for people to go and transact on chain, that's the goal. And we want that innovation to happen here. So staying mission driven. There's going to be a lot of opportunities to make money. There's going to be a lot of opportunities to make money in ways that may compromise the mission. Always stay true to the mission. And a big part of that is decentralization and allowing that economic empowerment where everybody can transact equally. I also think something that's really important that we need to address as the industry is growing is ensuring that we are protecting new consumers that come in. The goal now is mass adoption. We want to bring this technology to all the people of the world so they can benefit from using blockchains. But this is a new technology, and there are a lot of risks that come with it. Self-custody, for example, you need to understand how asymmetric keys work. You need to know not to lose your keys because you will lose your crypto. So that education of the masses is really important. We haven't really had an era in the crypto and the blockchain industry where we've been able to communicate to a much broader constituency of people how to use this technology safely. So the companies that are able to get in front of that audience, I think, are going to be really critical to the next stage of adoption.
And if I could just double down on that, in staying mission driven, this is the time to tell your story. What I have seen be really effective, whether it's policymakers or it's the broader community in terms of adoption, is framing your product or what you're building as the solution to a problem that faces everyday constituents. Whether you're issuing a stable coin, talk about cross-border transactions and remittances. That person in New York who's trying to send money to their family overseas, how they can do so more efficiently and cheaper. So framing every story that you're now telling, and you should be telling the world and screaming it from the mountaintops as, hey, there's a problem that your constituents or this community has been facing for decades, and here's how blockchain technology can solve it. I've seen be really, really effective in getting the message to resonate.
And I think the other thing is just to dream big. And that's my advice to you, Cody, as well, as you're stepping in as CEO in just a couple of days. Dream big. The opportunities are absolutely limitless. Don't limit yourself based on your own thinking. I think we have a chance to make a meaningful impact. Like, we've completed our first decade. Cody's coming in on the second decade, and now my vision is on reaching 100, which is how do we take this technology and make an impact for the next generation of Americans? And how do we improve the way that we interact and transact that allows people to have that economic empowerment, that self-sovereignty? These are big goals. So dream big, and I think there's a lot of opportunity for the industry, and there's a lot of opportunity for the future of the digital chamber too.
Yeah, and I also feel like there's a big unlock ahead because while the chamber's been toiling and fighting and advancing the ball for the last 10 years, there's a lot of folks that stayed on the sidelines, corporate, Wall Street, et cetera, that are now going to come in. And when they come in, they're like, okay, who should I talk to? You should talk to the chamber, been around for 10 years, this compendium of thought leadership, the membership, the partners. It really makes it like a no-brainer for anybody net new coming in and trying to figure out what's what. So it's that 10 years of investment and time is going to actually continue. That flywheel is going to move. So that's pretty impressive. Cody, what would you say on your vision for what's next? We do a lot of federal stuff, a lot of some global stuff, but there's a big state dynamic that's starting to kick up. How do you think about that?
Huge state component, especially right now when you have a Republican Washington. There's a lot of blue states who may still be antagonistic towards this technology, who are fighting back. And so we're looking to expand. We have been primarily federally focused, and Washington will always be our bread and butter. But how can we do more to serve the community and to serve our members at the state level? How can we do more internationally? There have been a ton of players overseas who have been looking to go into the US market, but to your point, Matt, have been reticent. They're like, I don't know if I want to touch that. That regulatory landscape looks scary. So how can we work and look at what's been done effectively internationally? How can we bring that to the US? How can we bring some of those players overseas? How can we make sure that we are advocating at every level of government, whether it's in your local school board, to your state government, all the way here to Congress? So that expansion is going to be a critical part of the next 10 years and beyond to make sure, yes, Washington will always be our bread and butter. This is where Perianne started this journey 11 years ago. This is our home, and we will always stay here and have a footprint, but how can we expand the chamber footprint to achieve the goal of mass adoption across the United States, in all 50 states, and across the world?
That's amazing. And the other thing, the way I think about the chamber is it's not all regulatory compliance, political dynamics. It's a proper trade association. And it's like the network of networks in a way where most people in this room are like a phone call away from an investor, a partner, another job, et cetera. So this network has been an advantage for a lot of members, and it's like one of the X factors that comes out of the chamber that most people don't think of.
I like to view it as a community. When a member joins the chamber, they have access to our entire team, but not only our team that has been growing very quickly over the last few months and years, but all of those member companies, all of those policymakers. We really are trying to build a community that all has the same mission. We're all aligned to get and achieve blockchain adoption across the country, the globe.
Amazing. Well, please help me in congratulating Cody on the promotion and Perianne for the amazing start and what's ahead. So thank you.